When panel companies pay for the invoices, the payments are recorded in the reports page. Get the payment details in hand, and you need to find out for which visits or invoice the payment is made for. There are two ways to record payments. 1. Via Enter Payment. And 2. Via Panel Summary. To ensure proper recording of payments, these two settings, Monitor Submission Status and Individual Payment, must be properly set for the panel in the panel page. Refer Panel Page Anatomy for more details. Once the payment information is obtained, search the panel here in the Reports page, and select the panel from the drop-down list. Let's record the payment via Enter Payment. For panels that pay by visits, payments can only be recorded via Enter Payment and not via Panel Summary. Enter the date of the payment, as in Payment Advice/Check, even if the date is not the current date. Follow exactly as what is stated in the Payment Advice/Check. Enter the date received here. Sometimes the payment may have been received a bit later than the date on the Payment Advice/Check. By default, the same date as date will be filled here when mouse is hovered. For panels that pay according to invoices, non-TPAs, select the invoice here. For panels that pay by visits, TPAs, you need to find out in which invoice the visits are in. Select the invoice here. If this panel has individual payments set in panel page, the list of patients/visits in this invoice will be listed here. If this panel has no individual payments set in panel page, no list will be shown as payment is expected to be made according to the invoice. If you are entering the payment by visits, do not fill in the amount here, as the amount will be automatically filled when visit is selected. No submission indicates that this visit has not been submitted on the panel's portal/website. It is very important to keep track of these submissions, as the submissions are the starting points for proper panel billings and paybacks. Panel submissions are tracked and managed in Submission Check. When a submission is done, confirm the amount, enter references if necessary, and click Submit. This must be done immediately after the submission on the panel's website/portal/terminal. It is important to be able to track the submissions, as this information will be required for any claim/demand of payment from the panels. Note that only panels with Monitor Submission Status ticked in panel page will have the patients listed here. Back to the Enter Payment. This is the date and time of the visit. This is the name of the patient. This is the visit number, VN. This is the IC/passport number of the patient. This is the amount charged under panel. This line shows the amount charged under this panel, date, time, and the person that did the submission. Any debit notes applied to this invoice will also appear in this list. To record payment for this visit, tick this checkbox and the payment amount box will be enabled. Enter the payment made by the panel for this visit. Note that sometimes, the amount paid by panels may be lower than the amount charged, as some admin/service fee may be deducted. In such cases, enter the actual amount paid after the deduction. In this example, RM30 was charged but only RM29 was paid. Whenever a payment is entered, the total here will be automatically filled up. If this payment is made for multiple visits, tick on the respective checkbox for the next visit paid. Enter the paid amount for that visit. The total amount paid will be automatically calculated here. Make sure it is the same as in the Payment Advice/Check. Select the mode of the payment here. If bank transfer is selected, specify the originating bank, the panel's bank, and select the clinic's bank where the money is transferred to. Click Record to save this payment. If we select back the same invoice, the visits that have payments recorded will appear in green rows. To edit/delete the payment, click in this red square. Edit the amount here. And click Edit to save. To delete this payment, enter 0 as amount and click Edit. Up to 2 payments can be recorded for a visit. In this example, only RM10 has been paid for a visit that has been charged RM30. If the panel pays twice in 2 batches, the second payment can be recorded by clicking this downward arrow. Tick this checkbox and enter the second payment. In this example we enter RM20. Enter the payment details. And click Record to save. The 2 payments are successfully saved, RM10 and RM20. For payments that are less than the billed amount, the payment date will appear in red. In this example, RM30 was billed but only RM28 was paid. Sometimes the panel may deduct administrative/service charges before paying. If the panel deducted RM2 as the admin fee for this visit of RM30, the RM2 must be captured under credit note. If you do not capture this RM2 as expense, via credit note, you will be overstating your income and may end up paying more tax. To record a credit note, take note of the panel and the invoice number. Under Credit Note, click New. Enter the date for this credit note. It should be the same date as the payment received date. You do not have to enter any amount here as the amount will be automatically calculated when a visit is selected below. Specify the reason for this credit note. It is important for the reason to be clear and accurate as this will be required during your income tax audits. All the invoices for this panel will be listed here. Draft indicates that this invoice has not been posted and therefore credit note cannot be created. This is the invoice that we are going to add RM2 as the credit note, as noted earlier. Tick the checkbox to select. When an invoice is selected, the invoice content, visits, will be listed. This is the visit that we are going to add RM2 in the credit note. Enter RM2 as the credit AMT. Note that this amount will be automatically filled here. Scroll down and click Enter to save this credit note. Note that this saved credit note is not valid till this credit note is posted. To post the credit note, click List to list all credit notes. This is the credit note that we have just created. Click View to display the credit note. If any changes are required, edit accordingly and click Edit to save. Editing is possible only if this credit note is unposted. To delete this credit note, click Delete. When the credit note has been verified, click Post. Note that the credit notes only take effect once posted. Now let's see how the credit note affected the panel invoice. Click View Invoices/Debit Notes. This is the invoice that we saved the credit note for. Note that amount inside the bracket is the invoice original amount RM385, and the amount outside of the brackets is the amount after credit notes and debit notes been applied. Let's see how the credit/debit notes affect your accounts. In this example, the invoice actual amount is RM7,419 and after credit notes applied the amount is RM6,654.60, so the difference of RM764.40, due to credit notes, is now captured as expense. So for this invoice, your net revenue is actually RM6,654.60 and not RM7,419. This has effect on your income tax payable as your income tax now will be based on RM6,654.60 and not RM7,419. The credit/debit notes also affect the balance of payment for this invoice. The payable is based on amount after credit/debit notes are applied. So in this example, the balance is 0 as RM6,654.60 is fully paid, not RM7,419. The list of all payments done by this panel for this invoice can be seen by clicking on this amount. These are the payments made by the panel so far. Note that for panels with individual payments set in panel page, the amount cannot be edited here. If these amounts need editing, it has to be done via Enter Payment. Other than the amount, the dates and payment modes can be edited. Click Edit to save any changes, or Delete to delete this payment. The receipt for this payment can be printed by clicking Print. Now let's see the second way of recording panel payments via Panel Summary. Note that payments via Panel Summary is only allowed for panels that pay by invoice and not by visits. Individual payment unticked in panel page. One box represents one invoice. This is the invoice number. This is the invoice amount, after credit/debit notes applied. And this the amount paid by the panel so far. To record payment for this invoice, click P. As mentioned earlier, payments via Panel Summary is only allowed for panels that pay by invoice and not by visits. Individual payment unticked in panel page, so for this panel payment cannot be recorded here. But payments for all panels can be recorded via Enter Payment. Let's try recording panel payment via Panel Summary for a panel that pays by invoices. Click P to record a payment. Specify the payment date, as in the payment advice/check, and the actual date the payment is received. Enter the payment amount here. Specify the payment mode here. Click Enter to save this payment. The payment of RM10 is now saved. To enter subsequent payments, repeat the same by clicking P. Now if we check the invoice under View Invoices/Debit Notes, the RM10 that we saved is now listed. To edit/delete, click on this paid amount. As for this panel, payment is done by invoice and not by visits. Individual payment unticked in panel page. All the details including the payment amount can be edited here. Click Edit to save any changes, or Delete to delete this payment. The receipt for this payment can be printed by clicking Print. Sometimes, the panel may just pay a part of the charges and expect the patient to pay the remaining, e.g. medicines not covered. In this case, the additional patient payment must be collected in the collections page. It is called post-invoice copay. To save the post-invoice copay, take note of this patient's visit number, VN. In this example the VN is 52. Go to the collection page. Enter the VN here. And click Find. To record the post-invoice copay, scroll down and click this icon. Specify the date the patient paid. Tick copay VN 52. 52 is the VN as from the invoice earlier. Enter the name of the patient here. Specify the reason for this payment. Enter the amount paid here. Specify the mode of the payment. Click Add to save this payment. Once saved, the payment will be shown like this. Note that this post-invoice copay is different from copayment saved during the visit. When copayment is saved during the visit, the panel is only billed the amount minus this copayment. When the panel is already billed/invoiced the full amount but requests the patient to pay part of the bill, the copayment must be saved this way. The post-invoice copay will also be shown here at the bottom right. To check/edit the post-invoice copay, click on this icon at the bottom of the collection page again. Specify the period where the post-invoice copay is within. Click List All to list all entries in this period. Post-invoice copay will be indicated in red like this. Click to load the details. If any changes are required, edit accordingly and click Edit to save. To delete, click Del. In View Invoices/Debit Notes, post-invoice copay will be shown under Paid like this, with the VN shown in the brackets. So for this invoice the patient's payment is also counted as the invoice payment. That's it. You're done.